A man was born into wealth, only to give it all up for a life of poverty and humility. This is the story of Francis of Assisi. In 1182, Pietro Bernardone returned from France to find his son baptized Giovanni, after John the Baptist. Furious, he renamed him Francesco, meaning Frenchman. Francis grew up in luxury, adored by everyone. He was charming, happy, and a natural leader, but no one tried to control or teach him. As a young man, Francis led a group of wild partygoers. He later admitted, "I lived in sin during that time." Despite his carefree lifestyle, Francis was good at business and shared his father's love for France, dreaming of becoming a knight. When Assisi declared war on Perugia, Francis saw his chance for glory, but he ended up imprisoned in a dark dungeon for a year. Even in the dungeon, Francis remained cheerful. After his release, he returned to his old ways, still seeking glory. The Fourth Crusade offered another chance for his dreams. He boasted he would return a prince, but God had other plans. A dream told Francis to return home. Humiliated and called a coward, he faced his father's rage for wasting money on armor. Francis's conversion was gradual. He spent more time in prayer, weeping for his sins and seeking God's grace. One day, Francis met a leper. Overcoming his revulsion, he kissed the leper's hand and felt overwhelming joy. At the church of San Damiano, Francis heard Christ say, "Repair my church." He sold his father's fabric to fund the repairs. His father saw this as theft and demanded Francis return the money and renounce his inheritance. In front of the town, Francis returned the money, stripped off his clothes, and declared God as his only father. Wearing rags, Francis rebuilt the San Damiano church with his own hands, not realizing God meant the church with a capital C. Francis began preaching, urging people to return to God and obey the church, always showing utmost respect. Companions joined Francis, living a life of poverty, begging for food, and loving God. They followed the gospel literally. Francis never wanted to found a religious order. He saw his mission as expressing God's brotherhood. Francis's brotherhood included all of God's creation. He preached to birds and even tamed a wolf that had terrorized a town. At first, people were hostile to Francis and his companions, but their joy and simplicity won hearts. Francis didn't try to abolish poverty. He made it holy. His friars gave away their possessions and worked for necessities. Francis believed possessions were the death of love. A man who owns nothing is truly free. Seeking approval for his brotherhood, Francis went straight to Pope Innocent III, who initially threw him out. After a dream, the Pope called Francis back and gave him permission to preach. Francis's direct approach sometimes led to mistakes, but he corrected them with the same spontaneity. During the Fifth Crusade, Francis went to Syria to convert the Muslims. The Sultan was charmed by Francis but couldn't convert. Francis faced persecution not from Muslims, but from his own brothers who found his ideals too harsh. He eventually gave up authority in his order, content to be just another brother. In his final years, Francis suffered greatly. He received the stigmata, sharing in Christ's passion. Despite his suffering, Francis wrote the beautiful Canticle of the Sun, praising God and creation. Francis died on October 4, 1226, at the age of 45, leaving a legacy of humility, love, and devotion. Francis of Assisi, founder of the Franciscan order and patron saint of ecologists and merchants, showed us the true meaning of living by the gospel. From wealth to rags, from sin to sainthood.